time for the Ron and Brian podcast. Get ready to fill your ears with the latest news, politics, current events, and whatever else we feel like talking about this week. And now, your hosts, Ron and Brian.
All right. Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday night. It is 8 o'clock, and it is time for episode 272 of the Ron and Brian podcast. As always, I'm joined here by my good friend, Brian. Brian, I know it has been quite the day for you. All week long, you have been following with extreme interest the are they or aren't they story of Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, which apparently
they are
seems to have set. I mean, she was in the Kansas City Chiefs box. She was sitting next to Mama Kelce. She chest bumped during a Travis Kelce touchdown. Brian, your dream has come true. The new power couple has emerged.
Listen, I mean, there have been so many suitors over these past few years for the heart of the fair maiden Taylor Swift. We had Joe Jonas, Ralphie Jonas, their cousin Mordecai Jonas. Then there was John Mayer was in the mix for a couple times. There was some dude from the Killers over this summer, maybe 1974. He was there. Not really sure who else, right?
Tom Hiddleston, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And then obviously, let's not forget Bill Cosby. He had, they had that summer to winter.
That May-October romance.
Damn right. do. But yes, I mean, it seems like, everything's pointing to it. America's new power couple. It is only a short period of time before we're going to get what we all want, which is Travis Kelce on America's favorite home singer.
Matt Singer, maybe?
Sure.
Well, in the meantime, we are the original power couple, Ron and Brian, and it's time for the way we start each and every week.
Drink of the week.
Na zdrowie.
Salud.
Drink of the week.
Friendship.
Who's?
Drink of the week. Drink of the week. Drink of the week.
Brian, if you don't mind, I'll start this week because I feel like I need to make amends with you. I've gone down the pumpkin beer route the last few weeks, which I know you take issue with. So since it was a very cool, rainy, nasty weather weekend-wise here, I have moved on to stouts, Brian. We reserve our stouts for the fall and the winter. And this is one that I have brought to the show before by Cape May Brewing. Their white cream stout ties the room together. The brew abides. I mean, it is just it's a delicious stout brewed with coffee beans, cocoa nibs, lactose, and vanilla. It clocks in at a sturdy 8.5%. So it's going to be a good evening. You know it. You love it. Cape May Brewing ties the room together.
Not only that, but it's got everything going on, but it also has a very nice hue. Ron, talk to me.
Oh, it's just delicious. I mean, you get the coffee, you get the vanilla, you get the lactose right at the end, tickling your tonsils, and it's just it's a delicious beer. It's one of my favorites from Cape May.
Oh, take another sip. You deserve it, my friend. You have earned that right to drink that beer.
So, Brian, what are you bringing to the table as your drink of the week this week?
Oh, Ron. You're so cute. You are adorable with your alcohol beverage, thinking that that's going to be an appropriate drink of the week. No, Ron, I'm an American and I'm a proud American. I have moved past this thing that you call alcohol, and I've moved on to opioids. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, my drink of the week, I'm working on 50 milligrams of Tramadol, which, as you can see right here, comes in a nice little white little tablet, which I was prescribed earlier today by my doctor. Hold up.
Right. Little coffee or a little water to take that down with?
Absolute water.
All right.
I've been told no alcohol to be drinking while I deal with my moderate to severe pain in my right knee. That's right, Ron. Tramadol is a strong painkiller from a group of medicines called the opioids. It doesn't stop the pain completely, but you will not be able to feel it as much. That's right, Ron. There's absolutely no lactose in this. There's no chocolate nibs or hints of hops or malts. This is just pure pharmaceutica Tramadol, 50 milligrams in my body.
I'm a little surprised. I thought the cool thing to do was to like crush the pill with like the handle of your knife and then scoop it up on the blade and snort it. But you decided to just take it and let the time release actually work.
Absolutely. Listen,
All right.
if there's one thing that I do is I follow my doctor's orders. When my doctor says to me, hey, take this pill, I'm going to take the pill. I'm not going to grind it up, sniffle it up.
All right, fair enough. Well, I hope that helps, and I think I have a feeling I know what this next topic is going to be. But let's get on to beef of the week.
Ron and Brian's Beef of the Week.
Brian, I think I might know, but if surprise me maybe with something different. But what's your beef this week?
It is the American medical system. Earlier this week, I received a cortisone shot to my right knee. This was Thursday morning. Went to go see my orthopedic doctor. He's been providing me care for the past, I would say, maybe 6 months on my right knee. Started with a torn ACL, months of physical therapy, put in the work, put in the labor, kind of started to reach a point where I just wasn't making any more progress. And it was just hurting me sitting, standing, hurting, standing. So by the time I went to him this past Thursday, he said, listen, it seems like you're not making any more progress. The next step in this is let's do a cortisone shot. I was like, all right, when do I come back for that? He's like, oh, no. We're going to do that shit right now. I was like, bring it on.
If I can interrupt for just a moment, and you've kind of kept quiet about this over the past few months. You originally hurt your knee lifting a bus off of a small child. I mean, you don't like to be known as a hero, but you rushed in there. It was a big burst of adrenaline. You lifted the front of the MDTA bus up, tweaked that right knee, and it really hasn't been the same since then.
Listen, Ron, when you are walking down the street and you see a New York City bus that has been hijacked by an undocumented migrant who has been welcomed into New York City with open arms, has not been taught how to properly drive or how to purchase their own vehicle, but has just broken the law because, New York City's woke prosecutors are not under any circumstances providing an environment where people shouldn't be stealing city buses. When you see, some of New York City's, next generation damaged by this behavior, by an out of control, lawless society, you jump in. You don't think twice.
You step in.
So,
right, exactly.
So I saw this child who was pinned under a bus. You could see that the transmission fluid was leaking all over it. Just outside there was a crackhead who was lighting matches and throwing them at the child. I just said, you know what, this calls for this requires my assistance. So I jumped in, lifted the bus, one arm. Should have done two in hindsight. I should have done two. I should have had the weight. I should have had the weight lifted evenly and distributed amongst my body. By lifting it with my left hand, what it did was it applied too much pressure to the right.
There was a lot of torque on the right knee.
As such, I've been suffering. So I got my cortisone shot earlier this week, and Thursday couldn't really feel the difference. I'm going to say this to you: I woke up Friday. Felt amazing. Felt as if there was absolutely nothing wrong with my knee.
Like a
walking
new man.
comfortably, sitting comfortably. I couldn't remember the last time my knee felt this good. At around 4:00 in the afternoon, I sat down, and holy shit, did I start to feel pain when I stood up. Within a very short period of time, about 2 hours, as I was commuting home, the pain grew significantly worse and worse, to the point where I was visibly walking in pain, limping. People walking down the street were asking me if they could assist in some way. People offered me car rides. This is what happens when you move to the great state of New Jersey. Hudson County, I mean, the citizens, I cannot thank them enough. They really rallied to my support. Never would have seen this kind of behavior in New York City. It's a dying city, Ron. However, Friday night literally couldn't walk. Saturday could not walk. Today I went to the ER. Well, I first went to urgent care, because that's what we do in America. We go to urgent care first. At which point I was pretty much told, well, we don't have any X-ray machinery here, so there's nothing that we can do for you. At which point I tried to explain to the doctor there that this was not a bone problem, that this has been something going on for months, and now just aggravated to the point where I now was struggling to walk, that I needed something for soft tissue. At which point she immediately jumped to, well, we need to rule out whether you have an infection from the shot, and that's what's caused this problem, or we also need to rule out whether you have a blood clot that is stuck in your it's stuck somewhere in your leg. What about trying to diagnose what it is? This is my problem with the American medical system. The way it's set up is that instead of taking a look at the problem and saying, well, statistically speaking, this is most likely what's wrong, and let's start treating that.
Right.
It's set up is, let's figure out the worst case scenario and rule that out.
Start knocking those out.
And then start working down in severity until we get to something where it likely is the cause, which basically wastes your time, wastes valuable resources in the medical field, medical costs sky high, and you end up getting tests and treatment that is not required whatsoever.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope things get better soon for you.
Thanks, buddy.
Sure.
Ron?
Yes.
What's bothering you?
So my beef this week, Brian, and probably for the last few months, are the New York Yankees, who today were mathematically eliminated from the 2023 playoff race, wrapping up a dismal season, would you call it?
I'd actually go so far as to call it disastrous. They ended last year in first place.
Right.
In their division. I think expectations were quite high. This team had, added some pieces that were supposed to make us better.
Tremendous amount of talent on the team, tremendous payroll as always, and just bottom of the barrel finish. If it weren't for, I think the Blue Jays might be the worst. I'm not sure who's below us in the American League East.
Red Sox.
Red Sox, just very disappointing. Just very disappointing. Yeah. As we mentioned to people, we were at Old Timers Day a couple of weekends ago. Deservedly so. Aaron Boone was the only person who was brought onto the field that was booed. He was part of that 98 World Championship team. Got to get rid of Aaron Boone.
Yeah,
I guess maybe my beef is Aaron Boone, because I do love the Yankees. I'm not a fan of Aaron Boone's management.
Well, do you think that a different manager would have gotten better performance out of these players? I mean, I saw a statistic earlier this week that the Yankees as a team had the second lowest batting average in all of baseball this season. So this wasn't just a couple players underperforming. I mean, there were regular times where you looked at the starting lineup and there was maybe two players at most that were hitting above 250.
I mean, it's a leadership issue, Brian. It starts from the top down. When there is a bad episode of this podcast, who do people look at? They look at you, Brian, as 51% ownership. When Matt falls off the wagon yet again, and wakes up in a pile of his own vomit on the streets of New York City, who do they blame? They blame you because you're the 51% owner.
Sure.
So it really is, it's the case of top down, trickle down, Brian. Trickle down works in economics. It works in management as well.
Why do you think it is that I am to blame for these problems when We had worse problems under your championship, and you blamed them on the poor. If I remember correctly, there was
don't.
I do recall there were times where you had some technical difficulties and you were unable to do the show. And when I said to you, this is something that as champ, you were like, "Listen, don't talk to me about being the champ. It's these effing poor people in my neighborhood who are holding me back." I believe you even blamed the Jews about 4 or 5 times.
I don't recall that happening, actually.
Yeah, I remember asking you, "Hey, do you still enjoy living where you are?" And you're like, "No, this is neighborhoods. It's gone all to the Jews."
I think the opioids might be kicking in on you. You're starting to hallucinate. You're starting to
Really?
get these false memories. I feel for you, my friend. I really do.
I do. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So let's get to our let's get to our stories of the week, Brian. We
Sure.
always like to make sure we grab a couple of stories so they don't fall through the cracks, and we make sure we get to them. Brian, what is your story of the week this week? What is the story that you want to make sure we cover tonight?
My story of the week. It's not what I would consider a feel good story. Going all the way out to Melbourne, Australia, and the story of what is her name again? Hold on, Wilkinson, Ian Wilkinson, his wife. Who's the one that? Okay, so
Aaron
there was
Patterson is the one charged.
Perfect. So Erin Patterson is a young lady living in Melbourne, Australia. She invites her pastor and his wife. Apparently, in Australia, they let their religious leaders have sex. And she invites her pastor, his wife. She is then joined by her former in-laws, Don and Gail Patterson, for lunch on July 29th. So it's 5 people at this table. And what makes this meal noteworthy, why we are talking about it months later, is that within days, Erin Patterson is the only surviving member of this lunch. What did she feed them, you may ask? Ron?
Not
No,
opioids.
no, you're supposed to say, what did she feed them? I said,
What
you
did
may
she feed them?
ask.
What
Fed
would they
them.
feed them?
She fed them beef Wellington, and you know me, I
Ooh.
love a good beef Wellington. And you've got the tenderloin, the filet tenderloin, inside an onion and mushroom pate, if you would,
Right.
or a mixture. I don't know. Inside, what is it? Phyllo dough, phyllo,
A phyllo dough, a pastry dough
phyllo
of
dough.
some
That's what I
sort.
thought. However, allegedly, Erin did not use your normal type of button mushrooms. She apparently went to an Asian food market and purchased deadly death cap mushrooms. Within hours of this meal, Pastor Ian Wilkinson passed away. His wife passed away. Erin's in-laws, Don and Gail Patterson, passed away. Erin alive. While she has not been charged with any crime yet, Melbourne police have announced that she is a suspect in these suspicious deaths, as they do believe that she fed them these poisonous mushrooms intentionally. This story has Australia abuzz, and we will continue to follow it.
Has Gordon Ramsay stitched this on his TikTok channel yet? Like, no, not the death cap mushrooms. It's fucking raw.
It's fucking raw. God, I love. What was that show that he did? Not the one where he goes into the kitchens, into the restaurants, but where he's got the reality show with the different chefs.
He did Hell's Kitchen. I think that might
That's
be the one
it.
you're referring to.
I am thinking of Hell's Kitchen, where every week somebody had to throw their what do you call that thing?
Their chef jacket.
Their jacket. Yes, it was terrible.
All right, Brian.
Ron, what's your story?
My story of the week, we go down to the great state of Florida, or Florida, as we like to say, where a woman allegedly attacked 2 people at a pool for doing stretches that she thought were inappropriate. This involves Amanda Ferragamo, age 41, who was arrested in Sumter County, Florida, after the incident. We have her mugshot here, where she was clearly attempting to smuggle an iPhone 15 in her mouth into the jail. Apparently, it involves a male and female victim. The female victim told deputies that she and the male victim were doing stretches when Ferragamo smacked and shoved them both. Now, what's weird is the story took place at 2:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Why are you doing stretches by the pool? I think perhaps that was sex, Brian.
You think?
I'm just throwing that out there. But the female victim then stated that the defendant accused them of doing inappropriate activities, began to shove her and smacked her across the face. The female victim ended up with a red mark on her face, indicating that she was hit as well. Turns out the man, who was not named in the case, and Ferragamo are connected in some way, which made the incident domestic in nature. So Ferragamo was transported to the Sumter County Detention Center and charged with 2 counts of battery. Your audio appears to have cut out.
That is rough, Ron.
I mean, the whole story sounds a little sketchy. I feel like maybe she caught her man banging another woman and maybe took matters into her own hands.
Let me ask you a question, Ron. Is
Sure.
it worse? Do you think it's worse if you catch the person having sex, or do you think it's worse when you find out that they're having a sexual relationship?
I think catching them, I think the visual is that much more shocking. I mean, I'm sure hearing about it is not great either, but the actual physical act of catching them and having to see it, not great either.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
All right, we're both in agreement.
You know, it's so rare that we're both in agreement.
Well, sometimes. All right, Brian,
Sometimes.
it's another football Sunday, and that means we got to review our locks of the week.
Locks.
Brian, I have to, and I know you're going to try and stop me, but I will not allow you to stop me this time, because what you did this past week was insane. You were saying New England, you hate the Jets. We know you hate the Jets. New England was playing at New York, -3. Closer game than a lot of people felt, but New England pulled it out 15-10. And then in a high-scoring affair, out on the West Coast, you had Seattle -4.5 versus Carolina. Seattle wins by 10, 37-27, moving you to 6-0 on the season. Absolutely amazing. Can you tell me exactly how you've gotten to where you are?
Ron, these games just pop off to me. They become painfully obvious that this is exactly the right way to go. It's a skill that I'm surprised not everybody has. Is that it's something that just comes so simple to me. And the reason why I don't think that it is such a big deal is the fact that I look right across at you, and I see that you also went 2-0 last week. Cowboys laying 10.5 against the Cardinals. Watched the score earlier today. You sat there and said, not only do I think the Cardinals are going to cover the 10.5 spread, but I think they are going to, I think the Cardinals are going to win the whole game. Cardinals at 28-16 victory. That was your first win of the week. And then also earlier today, Packers -2 against the Saints. You sat there and said, give me the Saints. There's no way the Packers win by 2. And you were correct. Packers only win by 1. Ron, you are 6-0 this season. How are you doing it?
Again, similar to your knee, when I look at these lines, I get a throb, deep in my body, and it just kind of directs me as to where I should pick.
Speaking of that, what do you have for this coming week?
All right. So this week, and again, I think Arizona helped reveal Cowboys for the mid team that they are. So I am taking those New England Patriots that you liked last weekend, +7.5 at Dallas. And then LA Chargers look to possibly be the real deal, -4.5 versus visiting Las Vegas Raiders. Brian, who do you got next week?
Listen, I'm going out on a limb here. Looked at the Eagles this week very closely. I think their run has is starting to wane. They're not the powerhouse team that I think the Vegas started to see. The Commanders are getting 7 points against the Eagles. Seems high to me after the Commanders' strong showing over the past 2 weeks. I'm saying let's go Washington. Dan Snyder's not there. You can proudly bet on Washington now. Also, Saints laying 3.5 over the Buccaneers. I think that Troy Aikman's going to have a great week this week with New Orleans. So let's go Saints minus 3.5 over the Bucs.
All right. Remember, folks, bet with your head, not over it. So, Brian, you have you've mentioned repeatedly over the last few weeks how you are now a New Jersey resident. You say that New York City is a dying city, but you now live in a state where one of its 2 senators is under investigation. Senator Robert Menendez for apparently taking bribes, cashing in his position in return for his power and influence as chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Brian, defend your state, defend your senator.
Oh, Ron, this is absolutely disgusting. This is politics at its worst. As a keen observer of the comings and goings inside of Washington, we all saw what happened recently. Lauren Boebert, who is just a fave of the far right, she is, considered a poster child for the future of the Republican Party, exhibited some very scandalous behavior in a Colorado theater. And really was just basically the first story on most news programs for the week. What's going to happen when you've got all the eyes on Republican bad behavior? What's going to happen? They're going to immediately, and this is the narrative of the mainstream media, which we know is controlled by Lachlan Murdoch, who is now in charge of Fox News. What do? They randomly spin the wheel of Democrat Congress people, and they say, all right, let's pick one to take down. They spun the wheel earlier this week, and who did they end up with? Just one of America's favorite citizens, the son of immigrants who came here from Cuba, Robert Menendez. Not to be confused with the Menendez brothers who shot their father. This is not the third sibling. A lot of people thought so earlier this week, but that is not the case. Anyway, my point being is, these claims of gold ingots being found in his house, planted stories of envelopes filled with cash. Listen, what self-respecting man does not walk around with envelopes filled with cash so that he can purchase fine gifts for his wife whenever she wants it? Rod, right now, how many pockets of cash do you have right now in your shirt pocket? I mean, at least 4 or 5, correct?
I don't believe I have any at the moment.
Oh, you must have taken them out before the show, so you didn't didn't want to look bulkier. I'm going to say this. I walk, even though I'm walking the dangerous, crime-ridden streets of New York City on a regular basis, I always walk with a minimum of 4 to 5 envelopes filled with cash, just to help homeless people who are asking for change. Bob Menendez, this is just clear misdirection. So that we are under, we're now looking at somebody other than Lauren Boebert. Politics at its worst. Disgusting, Ron. Disgusting behavior.
What's interesting is the New York Post writes about these new charges, but instead spends most of the article going back to the 2017 corruption case, which he beat in court, but because it was more of a salacious story involving women that he was helping get visas into the country for this Medicare doctor. But you have to think that where there's smoke, there's fire, Brian. And as much as you would like to defend your senator, seems like a number of Democrats are now calling on him to resign. And Representative Andy Kim has also said that he will run against Menendez in the Democratic primary if Menendez does not resign.
Ron, we are. I'm saddened. Frankly, I'm shocked at your behavior right now. This is a country of innocence until proven guilty. You can't. You don't punish a man simply because where there's smoke, there's fire. We are. We are required to assume that he is innocent until he is found guilty by a dozen peers in a court of law where evidence has been proven. He has already been targeted by the Department of Justice before, and they failed to convict him. They didn't they were unable to prove their case. He walks the streets with his head up high. There's no stain or smear against him. And to just sit there and say once again, oh, heaven forbid, we're talking about the bad behavior of a Republican politician. Let's go find a Democrat who we think we can go for. And what do? It's just the worst. They go after a proud Hispanic politician, a man who has shown that that there is no Caucasian ceiling in Congress. That it is a place that will welcome minorities, welcome people whose heritage is not from the Mayflower directly. A man like Menendez. The name Menendez belongs in Congress. We have enough, I don't know, Romneys and Gingriches. We have enough of those. We need some more Menendez.
I mean, it is Hispanic Heritage Month, so it is a shame that they chose this particular month to bring these charges. So I'm sure you will be out protesting for his innocence later on.
It smells fishier than my gym sneakers, Ron. That's all I have to say.
All right. Also taking place in the Senate this past week, Senator Chuck Schumer.
But by the way, I'm real sorry but it sounds like this guy's wildly guilty. Also,
Oh, yeah,
Menendez. I mean, like I actually read an article. I think it was on the Times, where they just listed all the different, in the indictment against him. It listed all of the stories that the Department of Justice is saying that they can prove, the gifts, the trading for favors and whatnot, wildly guilty. It just also, the other thing that sticks to me about the state of politics right now is that we have a Democratic senator who was indicted on charges of corruption. And by and large, the Democratic Party, who he is a member of, have all stood up and immediately demanded his resignation. They do not want one of their own who's suspected of corruption. Meanwhile, you've got the other side of the aisle, who the Republicans, who are absolutely calling for his resignation as well. When there is charges of corruption against a Republican congressman, there is absolutely no effort by their own party to drive them out. Still to this day, a voting member of our House of Representatives is George Santos from Long Island, who basically ran on a platform consisting of nothing but lies as to his qualifications. And the Republicans have yet to take any step realistically towards pushing him out of Congress. They want that Republican vote. The lack of backbone within the Republican Party, despite their stance of the moral higher ground, it's just wild to me.
All right. The real Brian shines through finally. Thank God. Also in the Senate this week, Chuck Schumer announced Monday that the Senate would no longer enforce the dress code on the Senate floor, calling for business attire as expected. The Republicans kind of losing their minds, saying this is the result of Senator John Fetterman, who tends to favor Carhartt work shirts, hoodies, and shorts when he's going to official events and while walking the Senate office buildings. Brian, your thoughts on this? I mean, while I don't feel a dress code is necessary, I think maybe a nice business casual, if you're going to be a senator, isn't a ridiculous idea.
I think there should be some dress code. I mean, I do believe that you are setting yourself up when you join the United States Congress as a leader, as an example, somebody that people should be looking up to and basing, as a standard for behavior. I think that a hoodie and some cargo shorts with some flip flops is beneath the station of a congressperson.
Agreed.
I'm
And
sorry. I just, I don't know why we're looking the other way for John Fetterman. I don't know why he gets to be allowed to walk like. I mean, no offense. I don't know that I would wear that to go get coffee at Wawa or Sheets.
and
Excuse me. He's from Pennsylvania. I should have made the
Sheetz.
Sheets reference.
And this was brought up by none other than that paragon of virtue, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, writing on Twitter, quote, "The Senate is no longer enforcing a dress code for senators to appease Fetterman is disgraceful. Dress code is one of society's standards that set etiquette and respect for our institutions. Stop lowering the bar." And he responded to Greene, who is the same person that showed stolen nude photos of Hunter Biden in a congressional hearing in July. He
Sure.
said, "Thankfully, the nation's lower chamber lives by a higher code of conduct, displaying dingling pics in public hearings." And he also, I gotta say, I wish I had written this down. He also made a comment about Lauren Boebert, where he said, "Well, maybe I should wear a revealing dress and, rub some guy's hog in public, and then maybe that'll be acceptable."
He said that.
I believe so, something along those lines.
Good for him.
I'm trying to see if the tweet is still up. He is wearing a shirt and tie in his Twitter profile picture.
In his Twitter, yeah, but that could be photoshopped.
True. You don't know. He doesn't really tweet a lot.
What do you think? Well, it's I think his office.
He replies a lot, is what he does.
So what you're saying is he's not capable of an original thought. He just tacks on. Ron, do you think that we should have a dress code for the podcast?
I don't know. I think perhaps we're good the way we are. I mean, I personally liked it when you were wearing different Ron t-shirts every single week. I think if there was a change to make, I would maybe go back to wearing a different Ron shirt each and every week.
For those that are longtime viewers of the show, when Ron was champion during his waning months, he really got I would say your power lust had taken over.
I don't know about that.
Well, you had Matt directive create a memo that I was to wear a shirt with your name on it every week for the during the show. I mean, I thought that was to just show your your absolute leanings towards fascism. I mean, it was concerning towards the end.
Was it? Were you concerned? Were you disturbed?
Ron, under my championship, you are been allowed to wear whatever you want. This beautiful wrestling belt, this 100% American, 51% champion. This wrestling belt has said, that we live in a democratic age here on the podcast. People can wear what they want. John Fetterman can wear what he wants on this podcast.
What I do like is he's done some quick responses, like when Nate Silver talked about it, he said, "I dress like you predict." When Ron DeSantis commented, he said, "I dress like you campaign." And now he has released some new gear, some new hoodie gear with his name on it. So it's gonna be interesting.
So his merch store is of hoodies.
He's added that to his merch store.
How do you feel about him representing you? Because I know that I know at the time you were happy that it wasn't Dr. Oz that won the Senate seat, but now that you've got Fetterman for what is it, 2 years at this point?
Roughly, yes.
1 year. No, yeah, a year and a half, we'll call it.
Yeah, about that.
How is it? How do you feel as a Pennsylvania resident?
I will say it is tough to judge his performance because he was on a leave of absence for a period of time, dealing with his mental health issues. So I would say the jury's still out on what he's able to be doing.
Okay.
I mean, do you have a take on it?
Do I have a take on it? No, I don't have a take on it.
You always have a take on things. That's why we do the damn show.
No, I really don't have a take on it. I mean, I don't feel that I have anything to say. I mean, as a proud resident of New Jersey, I can sit there and talk about Bob Menendez. I can say that he has represented us with a head held up high. I don't believe that I can speak about John Fetterman. It's not my place.
Okay, fair enough.
You can talk about him. I encourage you to.
Again, I will. We'll keep an eye on it and ask me 6 months from now, and I'll give you my opinion.
Will I have to couch you outside?
Very possible. Very possible. Earlier last week, we found out about a prisoner exchange with Iran, where we received 5 Americans that had been held on what were considered trumped up or false charges for a number of years, anywhere from 5 to 7 years, in exchange for the release of $6 billion in funds that were being held that belonged to the government of Iran. Very mixed reaction to this deal. Brian, what's your thoughts?
I thought, the truth be told is, as long as, it was the best deal that we could make, I see nothing wrong with it. It really is. How do I say this? I mean, this is America. No man, woman, or child gets left behind. How do we allow an American citizen to languish within a foreign power without trying to do everything that we can to rescue them? Right. I think the days are gone where we can act, unilaterally sending in our military into foreign land. Oh no, we did that with Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. So I guess we could do it. But yeah, I think the days where we just send in the military to start and fight wars are over. I think the fact was this was money that Iran had been owed by South Korea during the Trump administration. They had sold some oil to South Korea just before Trump had enacted some sanctions, and then South Korea held the money back after the sanctions went through. So in theory, this was never our money to begin with. So it's not as if we're paying Iran.
Right.
I know it's being
also
misconstrued as.
Yeah. Also, while the use of the money has been released to Iran, the United States government still controls the actual account and says that they will only release funds for, provisions like food, medicine, things of that nature. Because, obviously, I think the Republicans were concerned that Iran might use this, to enrich their nuclear program. But it does seem like, the Republicans aren't going to be happy with any way that Joe Biden gets Americans back from these countries. We saw that when Brittany Griner, we did a prisoner exchange to get Brittany Griner back. And, we gave up, one of the arms dealers to send back to Russia. And, there was outrage over that. And there was, I forget the name of the American that's still being held over in Russia. Why didn't we do more to get him home? And then, this time we to your point, we release funds that weren't really ours to begin with to get 5 Americans back that, have been languishing in jail cells for years and years and years. And apparently that's not the way to do it either. But no one has an answer as the best way to do it. But however way Biden is doing it is apparently not the right way.
Correct. We really have, such a culture now in politics where it is, I'm against everything that I'm against everything that people in my party are not for.
Right. And it's a shame. Like, there does need to be, in order for stuff to happen, there does need to be some level of bipartisanship.
Sure. I think you and I are a perfect example of it. You living in suburban Pennsylvania, Elkins Park, area. I'm not sure where you currently live, but, Bill Cosby lived there. Mark Levin lived there, far right-wing author we learned about earlier this week. It's a very problematic geographic area. I still, I look past, your Republican leanings and allow myself to do this show with you on a weekly basis.
And we appreciate that, Brian. We appreciate your open-mindedness.
Thank you.
Let's hop over to an area we haven't talked about lately. We haven't talked about personal finance lately. Let's look at the markets with stock.
Stonks.
All right. And not really stonks this time, but more NFTs. There was a report that came out this past week that said that most non-fungible tokens have no value. Cryptocurrency analyst Dapp Gamble determined that out of the 73,257 total NFT collections it analyzed, close to 70,000 had a zero Ether market cap, which is to say zero. Even when looking at 8,850 brand name top NFT collections like CryptoPunks, 18% of them now have a zero floor price, and 41% are worth between $5 and $100. The analytics site goes on to say, if it's possible, the situation may be even bleaker than the numbers suggest. Quote, for example, a MAC contract on Ethereum has a floor price of $13,234,204, but it's I hate these pop-up ads. Get off the screen. But its all-time sales is only $18.
Right. Listen, this is what you call a classic dump and pump scheme. The value of
pump and dump.
No, this is the opposite. He's dumping, and
He's
then
dumping
he's going to
and
be
now
pumping
pumping.
after. So
All
what
right.
you've got. This is why it's the world of NFTs and crypto. It's so wild to me to be on this ride, because you get so many of these reports and stories where people will tank a particular cryptocurrency in hopes that the value of it will immediately plummet so that they can jump in and buy it on the cheap. I think that what the author of this story, this report, clearly are huge fans of NFTs, see the value in NFTs. So they feel like if we write a story about how NFTs are worthless, that they automatically will be able to buy such great NFT projects that are out there. I mean, everyone's talking about Bored Ape, but I mean, let's not forget Monster Chompers, which is also on the Ethereum blockchain. That NFT project brought by Alan Robert of Life of Agony. I mean, those are just the interest is incredible in those NFTs. So I would question the accuracy and validity of any story that says otherwise.
Well, I think the difference is Alan reasonably priced his NFTs, where I think you're seeing some collections out there that were wildly overpriced and people bought into them.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that as well.
All right. Let's move on. We have another segment that people love to hate and hate to love. But the drag queens are the problem. We keep trying to hunt down situations in which drag queens are out there grooming or molesting children in some way.
Sure.
Again, relatively unsuccessful to do so again this week.
Yeah.
Two stories this week going out to Ohio, where two police officers from the Columbus area are being investigated for their response to a sexual misconduct case involving a child after a video of them appearing to blame the 11-year-old girl for creating child porn went viral. Two Columbia police officers, a female and a male, were seen talking to the girl's father on their front porch 6 hours after he allegedly called to report that a man online had manipulated his daughter into sending him pictures of herself. The dad tells officers he called because he wanted them to talk to his daughter to get her to realize what this was before conceding that he knew that there really wasn't much that he could do about it. The female officer is then heard on the doorbell camera video telling the dad that his preteen daughter, quote, could probably get charged with child porn. Who? She can. She's 11 years old, he responds, to which the officer replies, she's creating it, right? The dad replies, she's 11 years old. The female officer replies, doesn't matter. She's still making porn.
Jesus.
So the
Does
Columbus,
anybody train these cops on sensitivity?
apparently not. Apparently not. So the Columbus Police Department Twitter account has acknowledged that there is an investigation going on, and also the police commissioner apologized for the officer's handling of it, but they really haven't said too much more in the last week out of it. But yeah, just a perfect example of victim blaming. But then again, isn't Ohio the same state where a 10-year-old needed to go to another state because they weren't going to let her get an abortion, even though she had been raped?
Sure. Ohio is.
So does that really surprise you?
We should rank the states.
Okay.
We should do an episode where we just rank the states.
All right.
From worst to best.
I will work on that. Maybe that could
Obviously,
be our
Philadelphia. Pennsylvania comes in second in terms of best state. New Jersey,
New Jersey
clearly
number one
is the favorite, is the best state ever.
Maybe we'll work on that.
What do you want? What are you, the Iron Sheik? New Jersey number one.
New Jersey number
all
one.
Other states.
Next in Brett the Drag Queens are the problem. A fourth New York City schools employee was arrested this week after allegedly harming a student. This is according to the NYPD. Fawzia Nazneen, age 49, was arrested and charged in northeastern Queens for endangering the welfare of a child on Friday afternoon. According to police officials, a 6-year-old student kicked a ball into Nazneen's face. She then grabbed the child by the collar and threw him against the wall. The police said the student began to throw up a couple of minutes later, but when the child tried to get up, Nazneen pushed him to the ground. This was a day after 70-year-old Mohammed Baksh was taken into custody at a school in the Bronx after a 13-year-old girl reported that he had grabbed her breast while trying to give her a hug. An hour earlier on Thursday, police said teacher Brian Thomas was arrested at an Upper West Side school for allegedly punching a 12-year-old boy in the chest. And then on Monday, 40-year-old David Moore was arrested for allegedly striking a 12-year-old boy in the rib cage during a verbal dispute. Quite the week in New York City schools. But Brian, the drag queens that are the problem.
It's the drag queens that are the problem. Clearly, it's not poorly trained police officers.
Let's see. What else do we have, Brian? What other stories do we have here that you want to get to?
I forgot to ask you, Ron. What are you watching?
What am I watching? I watched on Hulu last night their new movie, horror movie, supposed to be No One Will Save You. And no one will save you from how bad of a movie this is. It's a story about this woman who is ostracized from the rest of the town that she lives in. You slowly learn through the story why she was ostracized. And then there is an alien invasion, and the aliens are taking over the bodies of the people in the village, and she is fighting back against it. And it is just, you wait and you wait for a payoff, and then there is no payoff.
Oh, that's a shame.
What are you going to do? So I'm trying to think if I watched anything else this week. I didn't really watch a lot this week. I'm not going to lie. What are you watching, Brian?
I started the final season of Sex Education on Netflix. It's a show. I think this is season 4. I think it came out at the beginning of the pandemic. Tells the story in this kind of I don't want to say it's not necessarily based in real times, but it is very. It tells the story of high school students this season. Now they're now entering college and post high school world where and it's just the youth dealing with their sex issues. It's a very LGBTQ plus friendly show. Very much, be who you are, and everything is accepted mentality on this show. I support it fully.
All right. I did forget. I did watch the second season of Murdaugh Murders, a Southern Scandal. This was a follow-up on the Alex Murdaugh trial. I did not finish the first season because it came out right after the other, like Murder in Low Country, I think was the initial
Which was to me,
docuseries.
I thought it was so good there was no need to watch anything else.
But this was so season 2 was a follow-up leading up to the trial, and the sentencing. So this was interesting. You did get to see a little bit more detail than I think maybe the news carried during this entire process. But after you watch all of it, you can't possibly think he's not guilty. Like you can't doubt the conviction in any way, shape, or form.
Do they talk to the surviving son?
They asked to interview him. He did not want to be interviewed for the docuseries.
I am fascinated by like right now, I would put him in the top 20 list of people who are alive that I would like to share a meal with. I have so many questions for that kid.
Sure.
How do you still talk to your father? Does he think that his father killed his mother and his brother? All these, pretty much I would just keep asking that question for an hour and a half until he got left.
And you have to think that he still supports his father in some way, shape, or form, because otherwise, like this kid could back the Brinks truck up for I mean, think what he would get paid if he agreed to do like an exclusive interview with TMZ or one of the networks or Netflix. Like, I mean, that would be his. But it appears that he still supports his father, even if you look at his testimony during the trial and everything else.
Sure.
So I would say if you skipped season 1 of Murdaugh Murders, continue to skip season 1, jump to season 2 and watch it.
Okay. Very good. There was a story in the sports world that I wanted to talk about. And that was the Oakland A's, who have been really just a stain on the image of baseball. My favorite sport, I think yours too. You mentioned the Yankees earlier. However, what we're seeing going on in Oakland is a owner who has decided that they want to take the team out of Oakland and take them to Las Vegas, where they believe they will be more profitable. And to do that, what they have done is gutted the talent on the team, traded away anybody of value, refused to pay anybody their worth. So what they're really doing is fielding a glorified minor league team, at a major league park to try to become an eyesore in the sport, such that they're forced to get approval by the league to move. The fans at various times in the season have held rallies to try to prevent Oakland from losing their baseball team, whatnot. But this past week, there was just a pure moment of embarrassment out of Oakland. First baseman for the Detroit Tigers, Miguel Cabrera, certain Hall of Famer, first ballot, I'm assuming. The guy has thousands of hits and hundreds of home runs. Should have looked up the statistics before we were talking about, but I'm sure Matt will put him in the yes.
If you're looking at hits, he is currently 1,000 hits of the next closest active player. He's got like 3,124 hits, and no other active player right now is in a position where they will hit 3,000 in their career.
Right. He literally is, and he's retiring this year. So as the norm with players that are retiring, as they go on their farewell tour on the last season of their career, when they visit stadiums, there is some kind of retirement ceremony. The same kind of nonsense where they play a video of this player's greatest moments against the team, et cetera, et cetera. And each team gives them some type of gift. I remember when Mariano Rivera retired. He received a couple rocking chairs from different teams, broken bats, whatnot. Oakland decided that they were going to put in the least amount of effort.
And he's even gotten he got like a guitar from Cleveland,
Sure.
representing the Hall of Fame. He got a painting from the Yankees. So he's gotten some nice gifts from some of the other teams so far.
So in Oakland, Ron, what did he get?
He received a $90 bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon. Now it's a 4.25 star 2020 Cabernet Sauvignon. But yes,
Okay.
$89.95. And that's not even the worst part, is it, Brian?
No, what is the worst part, Ron?
The worst part is that in 2009, Miguel Cabrera went through a treatment program for alcohol addiction and was arrested for DUI in 2011.
So the
So
man is a recovering alcoholic, and as their farewell gift to him, they got him a moderately priced bottle of wine. Really just shows you the trash organization that is the Oakland Athletics.
well, let's not forget, Brian, if you want something good to spend your money on, we are now available on Cameo. If you need something recorded, birthday wishes. If you're a Major League Baseball player on a retirement tour, we can wish
Sure.
them well. Graduation announcements, engagements, whatever. If you go to cameo.com/Ron Bryan Podcast 8939, it's only $10. And we are proud tonight to announce a special promotion. We are giving away cameos for free to the first 5 people that go to Cameo and request it. So all you have to do is go to Cameo, request it, pay for it, and we'll PayPal it back to you.
Sure.
We will Venmo you. We'll Zeal you, one or the other. But the
We'll cover the
first
cost.
5 cameos get it for free. That's how confident we are that these are going to be some fire cameos that you get from us. So that's cameo.com/Ron Bryan Podcast 8939. You can also go to our Instagram page. It's in the links in the bio, or as always, just go to ronandbrianpodcast.com.
Ron, that's not the only way people can spend their money wisely.
Of course not. You can also become a Patreon subscriber. It's what the cool kids do. It's what our closest of friends have all done. Also, when you go to ronandbrianpodcast.com, in the upper right-hand corner, you will see a link to become a patron. You can join for as little as $5 a month, but at $10 a month or higher, you get to join our live After Dark, which will be taking place at 9:30 tonight. And tonight being the last Sunday of the month, this is going to be our pajama party where all of our Patreon subscribers get to come on live with us. And we've got Can You Beat Ron? That's right. It's a trivia contest where you try and beat me. And if you do, you will get $25 donated to the charity of your choice. And I believe we are back at 25 because I did lose last time.
I thought you won last time.
Did I?
I will check, but I thought you won last time.
You're right. I lost the time before that. So now it would be $50 would go to the charity of your choice.
Yes, correct.
If you are able to beat Ron tonight. I do not know the topic. I have asked Brian the topic. He will not tell me. But I know our Patreon folks will be anxious for the competition.
Yeah,
Brian.
It's a great. Yes.
No, I'm just saying, Brian. What do you have to say about it?
Listen, I look forward to the Can You Beat Ron contest that we have on a regular basis. It's one of the high points of my month that we do every other month, and it's a fun time. Our pajama parties are legendary. A lot of people say that it's their primary reason for being members of the Patreon. Some people say that they do it to help financially support us because they are big fans of the show and they want to say thank you. But most people are saying, listen, it's the After Dark Pajama Party. It's a once a month occurrence where we get to come on the show as fans of the show, friends of the show. And we get to try and win some of Ron and Brian's money. Always goes to a good cause. You pick a charity, and it's just fun. There
you go. Well, we're looking forward to it. That'll be starting up in about 26 minutes. So you still have time to register for that Patreon and join us this evening. Brian, anything else before we wrap things up this week?
Love you, buddy. Thanks for doing this again.
All right. Love you too, my friend. Thank you all for tuning in. Be good to yourselves. and each other. Damn, that would have been better if I had the outro queued up.
Oh, God damn it, Ron.
I know. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Ron and Brian podcast. We're live each week on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find prior episodes, links to our social media, and everything else Ron and Brian at ronandbrianpodcast.com. See you again.